Have you ever been in a relationship that felt like a dream at first, but slowly turned into a nightmare, where no matter how much love, time, and effort you gave, it was never enough? Maybe you've dated someone who made you feel like an option rather than a priority. If you've ever felt used, manipulated, or emotionally exhausted in a relationship, then this video is for you. Because today, we're breaking down the 6 signs of a stupid woman you should never date. But before we get into it, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This might just save you from a toxic relationship and change your love life forever. Watch till the end because the last sign is the one most men ignore and it ruins lives. Let's get started. Sign 1, she values status over substance. My question is this: have you ever been in a relationship where you felt pressured to prove yourself all the time? It seemed as if her constant comparisons to others meant that nothing you accomplished could ever satisfy her. Perhaps it began with a bang. She acknowledged your aspirations, smiled at your jokes, and made you feel like a king. But as time went on, perspective shifted. All of a sudden, she began to hint, "Why don't you ride in a more refined vehicle? Why don't we visit more luxurious locations? Why should I expect you to buy me a designer bag when my friend's boyfriend just bought her one?" Maybe she just has very high expectations, you thought at first. And suddenly it hits you, this isn't about you. The issue is one of social standing. Your generosity, devotion, and affection are of no interest to her. What you can provide is of interest to her. Now we get to the terrifying bit. Such a lady can never find contentment. She will start to doubt if she's with the proper man the second she sees someone else with more, no matter how much money, luxury, or things you shower her with. When that happens, self-doubt about your relationship begins to set in. Have you ever found yourself in a similar predicament? Where did you begin to question your value as a person, due to the lady you loved constantly telling you that you weren't good enough? I know a lot of men have been in your shoes, so if that's the case, please share your story by leaving a comment. Listen up. Being rich or poor isn't the point here. There are ladies in the world who will accept a man exactly as he is and adore him for it. Regardless of how much you love, care, and support her, a foolish woman will always want status. Let me get this straight. She will never love you for your true self if she prioritizes her position over your content. Only the things you can give her will she love. When you are unable to meet her needs in that regard, she will go. This next sign is much worse, so let's go on to the following one. Sign 2, she respects power, not love. This one, though, you will be really saddened by this one. Okay, let's not sugarcoat it. When you loved a lady deeply, did she ever treat you like a commodity? Have you ever put forth a lot of effort just to have her pursue a person who treats her like trash? This is something that every man has to know. So please don't stop watching if it has ever happened to you. Unfortunately, some females just do not value love. One thing they respect is power. Allow me to explain it to you. She seems interested in you at first. Her favorite things about you are your empathy, your attentiveness, and the fact that you pay attention when she talks. Something, nevertheless, shifts as time goes on. One thing you've noticed is that she no longer values you. Eventually, she becomes bored. Respect for her begins to dwindle. Then out of nowhere, she begins to develop feelings for guys who view her as nothing more than a commodity. And you just sit there perplexed. How when I go wrong? Now I'll tell you the truth. It's her, not you. Seeking power becomes an addiction for some women. Love is not what they are seeking. They want to find a man to look up to, someone who is more powerful than them, and who makes them feel like they have to work for his approval. And you know what? This explains why women with these traits tend to be attracted to emotionally distant and toxic males. Why? Because an ignorant woman would never desire a guy who accords her the respect due a monarch. In her ideal partner, she would feel compelled to defend his love no matter the cost. Because of this, a lot of decent men get their hearts shattered. Why? Because they shower affection on a lady who shows no regard for it. Hear me out. Trouble is brewing in your relationship if she demands that you demonstrate your value, assert your authority, and be better than other guys on a regular basis in order to maintain her attention. Love isn't a game, you know. In a love relationship, power plays no role. So I must inquire, were you ever the victim of a woman's rejection because she opted for someone else? I want to know in the comments if that's the case, since I know how genuine this grief is. Rest assured you have company. The lesson, nevertheless, is that a true woman prioritizes love over power. Seeking the next great thing is the hallmark of a foolish woman. The only way she can ruin your sense of self-worth is if you stay with her. Sign 3, she thinks beauty, value. I have a question for you now. Have you ever been captivated by a lady only due to her breathtaking beauty? Every man in the room turned to stare at her as she entered because of her stunning good looks and captivating smile. You could have thought you hit the jackpot for a little period. You brought her out for all to see, and the men surrounding you couldn't help but be envious. But then, an unsettling sensation began to develop. You attempted to engage her in profound discourse, but she remained silent. You divulged your hardships, aspirations, and desires, and the only thing they said in response was something superficial like, "That's cool." Your thoughts weren't interesting to her. Your emotions weren't what piqued her curiosity. The only purpose she served was to be adored. You see, a lot of girls and young women hear that their appearance is the most significant attribute they may have. This leads them to think that physical attractiveness is sufficient. Their capacity to love and support a guy, as well as their emotional intelligence and personality, are not something they work on. For them, attractiveness is paramount. And now we reach the risky part. Never expect a lady who places a monetary value on physical attractiveness to value you. Why? Reason being, she thinks being in your company is beneficial to you. She thinks you should do everything for her, run after her and worship her just because she is. And she'll start to distance herself from you the moment you stop treating her like a goddess. How can I improve our relationship? Is not something she will ask. No. Contrarily, she may begin to wonder, maybe I need a guy who worships me more. She disappeared without a trace, and your mind is left bewildered. Was I only a stepping stone till she discovered someone more suitable? If this rings true, then I have news that will alter your worldview. True women understand that physical attractiveness is fleeting, but true love, compassion, and connection endure beyond all time. But a foolish lady thinks her attractiveness will suffice no matter what. I can tell you from experience that if she feels unappreciated, that lady will abandon you. Are you familiar with the feeling of needing to continually impress someone in order to maintain their interest? If yes, tell me about it. If you can connect, please leave a remark. I'm sure many men can. This isn't bad enough. The following sign is far worse. Sign 4. She sees men as ATM machines. The time has come for you to tell the truth. Have you ever been in a relationship where money spoke louder than emotions? In the beginning, it was only little details. Dinner was her request, not a problem. After that, she requested for further assistance with a pressing matter. Very well. After that, her expectations began to rise. You started to feel more like you were just trading goods, rather than building a connection. You ceased to be a man. That was you. And the terrifying part is, these days ladies are so open about it. A man should provide is a common social media sentiment. A true gentleman covers all expenses. He ought to look after me if he loves me. Plus, you may initially be on board with it. A true guy, after all, takes great pleasure in providing for his lady. Caring for one another is the essence of a relationship. However, her desires are different. A partnership is not something she is interested in discussing. Lacking affection, she rejects it. Finding a sponsor is important to her, and when you cease making payments, she has left. I have a sad question for you. Have you ever been in a circumstance where she abruptly lost interest the second you stopped giving? She never loved you, and that's why. Everything you could do for her, she adored. Also, I am well aware of how much that pains you. When you look back and see that someone you cared about was just interested in taking advantage of you, it's hard to process. A genuine lady, though, wants to establish a life with you, not just take advantage of you. This is something you must realize. If a lady loves you, she would never put pressure on you to purchase her love. If you ever feel like she's only interested in seeing your wallet, if you ever feel that your money is more important than her presence, then you should get out of here quickly. Love is not a transaction, one would argue. No woman of her salt will ever be faithful to you if she views you only as a means to an end, ATM. Now I want to know whether you've ever felt that a lady loved you just for what you could provide her. Since I'm sure many males may relate, please let me know in the comments section if that's the case. Just wait till you find out about the next sign. This one is awful, because the one after this, for this very reason, a great number of men experience emotional collapse. Sign 5. She can't handle rejection. May I inquire of you something? Can you remember a time when you had to tell a lady no, and she exhibited a whole new personality? Perhaps she originally made. You feel like the luckiest man alive with her sweetness and charisma. It didn't matter if it was your time, money, or attention. The minute she didn't receive it, she lost it. Her demeanor softened, withholding attention from you. Even worse, she began physically harming you. And if you've ever been in my shoes, you'll understand completely. Rejection is inevitable, and a strong, independent woman knows this. But an ignorant woman? Rejection hits her like a ton of bricks. Perhaps she's behaving distant since you didn't respond to her SMS message quickly enough. Perhaps she is treating you like a total jerk since you failed to fulfill her desire to purchase anything from you. Or perhaps you just told her something about something she did that irritated you, and she took it personally instead of listening. Is there a familiarity here? Do you remember a time when you felt like you had to tread carefully in a relationship? For the sake of avoiding conflict, you felt compelled to consistently agree with her? Too many guys have been through this. If you have, please leave a remark. Now I'll tell you the truth about what's occurring here. Immaturity manifests emotionally in a lady who is unable to cope with rejection. Instead of seeing that a relationship is about two individuals, each with their own set of needs and limits, she interprets every no as a personal attack on her value. Staying with this kind of women will cause you to gradually forget who you are. I promise. Reason being, you'll start giving in to demands you'd rather not meet. Apologizing will become second nature to you, even when you haven't messed up. If you put her happiness before your own, you'll start to change. Another thing I want to tell you is that it is not love. That is deceit. Your limits will be respected by a genuine lady. Just a woman? If you have them, she will punish you. Furthermore, if you persist in remaining, you will come to the realization that you no longer identify with your former self the day you awaken. I have a question for you before I get to the last sign. Have you ever felt that you couldn't say no in a relationship? Leave a comment if you agree, for the simple reason that this is something that no guy should be unaware of. On the other hand, this last indicator? Among them all, this one poses the greatest threat. Sign 6, she lives for other people's approval. Pay close attention now. Have you ever been in a relationship with a lady who put the opinions of others ahead of your own feelings? Perhaps before making any kind of choice, she always sought approval from her pals. Perhaps she felt the need to prove something by continually posting about your connection on social media. Look what they're doing, why can't we be like that? She may have said, drawing comparisons between your relationship and others. And as time went on, you began to understand that you weren't actually dating her. You were involved with her circle of acquaintances, her online persona, and her fixation on maintaining an ideal appearance. Allow me to explain the gravity of the situation. An unfulfilled life is inevitable for a woman who constantly seeks the affirmation of others, because her happiness is contingent upon the opinions of others, regardless of how much you love her. Furthermore, she will eventually allow those outside influences to destroy your relationship. It might be that she begins to doubt your worthiness since her friends dislike you. Perhaps she starts comparing you to impossible standards because social media tells her she deserves better. Perhaps she's been hearing rumors about what a real man does XYZ, and now she's unrealistically asking of you. And what's even worse, she has no intention of standing up for your relationship, because when the time comes for her to decide between you and the opinions of others, they will always be her first choice. Then it hits you. You were never in a relationship with her. She was attempting to project an image of you, and you were dating her. I'm fully aware of how difficult this discovery is for you. Perhaps you had nothing to spare for her. Perhaps you made an effort to demonstrate genuine affection for her. However, she failed to truly value her possessions since she was preoccupied with seeking validation from others. You should never get out with a lady who lacks independent thought because of this. My buddy simply said, a genuine friendship involves just two individuals, not the globe at large. Please tell me if you've ever been in a relationship where the other person prioritized the opinions of others over your own feelings. Tell me in the comments if that's the case. Reason being, this is something that daily causes relationship breakdowns. Conclusion. Watch out for even just one of these warning signals. Exit immediately if you identify all 6. Because a foolish woman will ruin your serenity, self-esteem, and joy, not to mention squander your time. An astute man is aware of when to part ways. A naive guy remains convinced he can transform her. Please respond to me now. This woman is unlike any you've ever met. Which symbol was the most noticeable? Please leave a remark. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.